My business has a total of 6 different checking accounts. The first is the income account. The second is operating expenses. The third is owner's pay. The fourth is profit. The fifth is income tax. And the sixth is sales tax. The entire goal of Profit First is to make sure that you're setting aside enough money to pay yourself, to pay your taxes, to operate your business and be financially responsible. Let me give you a really quick example. Let's say $50,000 comes into our income account. Before we spend any of that money, we're going to split it up. So if you look here, you'll see that I put 10% into profit, 10% into owner's pay, 5% into sales tax, and 10% into income tax. The remaining 65% gets put into operating expenses. That money that's in the operating expense account is all the money that we have to operate the business. It forces us to be smart. It forces us to not overspend. It forces us to be responsible about how we move our money so we can make sure that we are paying ourselves and our taxes and operating the business within our means. In fact, that's where the name Profit First comes from. You transfer the money into the profit account first, before you do anything else, so you can be certain that your business is generating a profit. You eat first. I almost lost my business in 2021. I was on the verge of bankruptcy, and I didn't even know it until it was almost too late. The problem was that I was spending money based on my sales, not based on my profits. To make things worse, I wasn't setting aside money for taxes, I wasn't properly paying myself every single month, and I didn't have a system for managing my money. I would just log into the bank account and I'd say, hey, the checking account balance is more than the credit card. Let's pay it off, we're good. I got to a point where that wasn't working anymore. I had reached a point in business where I needed to level up my financial education or watch my business die. So I poured myself into the Profit First system, and it completely saved my business. Today we're going to talk about that in detail. I'm going to show you step by step how we manage the cash that comes into our business. I'll start by showing you how Profit First works. Then I'm going to show you how we set it up for my e-commerce brand. I'll show you how to manage it, and then I'm going to show you what comes next. In order to pull this off, you need 2 things. You need to have an understanding of how Profit First works, and you need a business banking platform that will allow you to open up multiple checking accounts for free. And that's why this video is sponsored by the official Profit First banking platform, Relay. I use them in my business, and it's been a complete game changer, especially for Profit First. But we'll talk more about that later. I can't take all the credit for turning my business around. The real hero is Mike Michalowicz. Mike Michalowicz is the author of Profit First. He's who I learned the system from. His stories and experiences were incredibly relatable. I felt like he was speaking directly to me. So when he shared how he fixed the same problems in his business and then gave me the system, I had to try it. And I'm so glad I did. But it wasn't without a couple of rough patches, that's for sure. In fact, there was a point where I almost gave up. And that happened when I was implementing the system. You see, you've got to open multiple bank accounts for all of this to work. So when I went to Chase, when I went to the credit unions, when I went to all the other banks that I had a relationship with, they pretty much laughed me off the phone. They were not interested in helping me. That's where I almost quit, but I'm glad I didn't. Because I found the right banking platform, I implemented the system, now my business is thriving, I have the education that I needed, and I feel so much better every single time I log in to check our bank account balance. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what Profit First is, let me just quickly break things down for you. Profit First is like the envelope method of budgeting, but for business. When money comes in, you split it up and you're only allowed to spend the money that's in each account. And each of these accounts is for a specific purpose. This sounds a little confusing. How do we actually do this? Do I really need 5 or 6 different checking accounts open? Can't I just split it up on a piece of paper or on a spreadsheet or use some software or pay for this thing and have it manage it for me? And those are all valid questions, all questions that I had. But the short answer is that you can manage and set up this entire system using a free business bank account with Relay. They are the official Profit First bank, and they've actually partnered with Mike Michalowicz to work with people like us, the people that need Profit First. I'll elaborate on that in a few minutes, but the long and short of it is that we need a business banking platform that will allow us to open multiple checking accounts. They also need to be free, so we're not charged an arm and a leg every month. We also need the modern day creature comforts that online business banking platforms offer, multiple accounts, savings, debit, credit cards, being able to send wire payments and ACH, connect your bank accounts to different systems online, send checks, etc. It's really important because when we get paid from Amazon and PayPal and Shopify and Stripe, it all needs to come into one income account so it can be split up properly. Now, I'm going to oversimplify this a little bit. So if you want more detail and you want to experience what I went through, I suggest picking up the book by Mike Michalowicz. I listened to it twice and read it once, and that third time is when I took all the notes and figured everything out. But at the very least, this video should give you an excellent overview, give you a glimpse into how I set things up for e-commerce, and give you the information that you need to figure out if this is something that you even want to do. I think you should, by the way. So let's talk about the 5 different bank accounts so we can have a clear understanding. I'm going to start with the profit account. Profit first, right? The best e-commerce businesses operate on a 10% net profit margin. That means for every dollar they make, 10 cents is profit. And for most people that are in our position as owner-operators of their brands, it's very realistic to make 10% in profits. In fact, if you're making less than $2 million a year and you are the owner-operator of your business, it's even possible to get that net profit percentage up as high as 30 or 40%. You can make some serious money at that range. But for the sake of discussion, we're going to stick with 10%, the amount of profit that most businesses make. So what does that actually mean? Well, that means that when the money hits our income account, we're going to take 10% of every dollar in that income account, and we're going to transfer it into the profit account. But when do we get the money from the profit account? It's a good question, and I knew you would be thinking that because I was too. I take profits every quarter. So every 3 months, I will go in, look at all the money in our profit account, and I will directly transfer it to my personal bank account. Or I'll send it to my S-Corp so that I can run it through payroll or a distribution. Regardless, it's your money. You own the business. The profits belong to you. But what's the difference between that and owner's pay? Because if you remember, there's 2 accounts, and we transfer 10% into both of them. So let's talk about owner's pay now. Owner's pay is the account we use to pay ourselves every month. We don't pay ourselves every month from the profit account. That's profits that the business has generated. We pay ourselves from the owner's pay account. Every time money hits the income account, 10% of it will go into owner's pay. I use that money on a monthly basis to pay us. The money in the owner's pay account is what feeds our family. The money in your owner's pay account will go towards your payroll or a distribution or an owner's draw, depending on how you pay yourself from your business. This is a very important distinction to make. A great, healthy percentage for you to start at for both the profit and the owner's pay account is 10%. So before I talk about how we set up automatic transfer rules and have this whole system work in the background for us, we've got to talk about the percentages. So when you're reading Profit First, you'll hear Mike talk about these allocation percentages using 2 different terms: your current allocation percentage and your target allocation percentage. The current is where your business is currently at. What percent are you transferring into each account? The target allocation percentage is your goal. What do you eventually want to get each one of these accounts to? Because not everybody can afford to only transfer 65% into their operating expense account right away. Some people need to have more. Some people can't afford to take profits or owner's pay yet. We have to gradually get there. We want to put Profit First in place and then gradually get to where we want to go. So when most people set up Profit First, your percentages are going to be a little out of whack. But that's okay, because we're not trying to shock the system. We're trying to gradually work our way there. We want to get closer every week, every month, every quarter, every year to be more responsible with our cash flow management. So we figure out how much we're currently spending in these different categories, and it becomes our current allocation percentage, or our starting point for Profit First. Now, your next question might be, well, how do I figure out how much I'm spending in all these categories? Bookkeeping. You got to look at your books, specifically the profit and loss. You need to be keeping track of the money that comes into your business and the money that comes out. Everything you make and everything you spend. It must be categorized in the right categories. We need a clear picture of where all of our money is going. So if you don't have a bookkeeper, or you don't have bookkeeping in place, or you don't have a software that you're using, that has to happen first. We've got to have an idea of what we're working with before we can start transferring money. We don't want to do it haphazardly. So if you need some help and you need an introduction to a good bookkeeper that I've interviewed, or you need some help getting set up with the softwares and whatnot, I've got a ton of resources for you inside the membership community. Just shoot me a message or post to the group and I will link you some professionals that I have personally interviewed that will do an amazing job for you and understand profit first. I also have some detailed trainings inside the community. How to interview and find a bookkeeper, how to read and interpret a profit and loss, and what needs to be in place for you to responsibly keep track of all this stuff. Now, if you don't have bookkeeping in place, you can at least practice what I'm about to show you. Just start with my percentages, the percentages that I've cross-referenced amongst a bunch of other 7, 8, and 9-figure e-commerce brands. They're pretty standard. So now that we understand how to figure out where we are currently and how to figure out where we want to go and what my percentages look like, let's talk about the rest of those bank accounts we mentioned earlier. We've covered profit at 10%. We've also covered owner's pay at 10%. That leaves 80% left over. So where does it go? The next account I want to talk about is our sales tax account. I transfer 5% of every dollar we make into that sales tax account specifically, and it's only for sales tax. Now, I'm sure you're thinking, hey, Evan, sales tax is way more than 5%. How does that work? The math doesn't math. Well, we sell on a lot of different platforms. We sell on Amazon, on Shopify, directly into retailers, Walmart.com, TikTok Shop, eBay, Etsy, etc. Every single one of those, except for Shopify, is a third-party marketplace. Third-party marketplaces are responsible for collecting, filing, and paying sales tax on your behalf. So if you're just selling on Amazon and eBay and Etsy, you don't have to worry about it. In fact, Shopify only makes up about 30% of our total revenue. So if I set aside 5% of every dollar that we make, it will more than cover the 7 to 10% I'll owe for sales tax for that 30% that Shopify makes up. Now, if you're not at a point where you have to file and pay sales tax in a bunch of different states, you might be able to make this number a little bit lower. But at the very minimum, you need to make sure that you're setting aside money to pay the sales tax in the state that you do business in, the state that you operate in, the state that you exist in, because you have to file and pay in that state at the very least. But I wouldn't worry about any of the other states until you trigger an economic or a physical nexus. If you want to learn more about sales tax, you can check out this video right here. I've done my best to break it down in a really simple and easy to understand way. The next account I want to talk about is the income tax account. We set aside 10% of every dollar for income tax. Mike and myself both believe that your business should be paying your taxes for you. So by setting aside 10% of every dollar that you make for income tax, you'll have more than enough money to pay your quarterly prepayments, to pay your taxes yearly, and even to pay the tax professionals and or accountants that you use to help you with all this stuff. The final bank account is the biggest and my favorite. It's the operating expense account. I transfer 65% of every dollar the business makes into the operating expense account. This is all the money that you have to operate your business. I'll give you some examples. Marketing, processing fees, inventory, shipping, legal, payroll, etc. These are all examples of operating expenses. In fact, the only thing that you don't use operating expenses for is profit, sales tax, income tax, and your pay. One of the main reasons I like this so much is because it forces me to be smart about my money. It forces me to only spend the money that's in the operating expense account to operate my business. It keeps me from overspending. It keeps me from being irresponsible. It keeps me from spending based on my sales instead of my profits. I know it sounds silly, but it was a game changer when this was implemented. It just made things easier. It's like, okay, I can only spend this much. Cool, I can do that. I needed that. Now, there is a final account, but it's not an account you spend money out of. It's called the income account. That's where all your money gets deposited. So when you're setting things up on PayPal and Shopify and Stripe, Amazon, this is the bank account that you want them to send the money to. This is the bank account that's going to collect everything and distribute it into the other accounts from there. So now that we understand the why, how Profit First works, and how we set things up, let's revisit the scenario I showed you in the beginning of the video with a $50,000 income amount. Now, if you look closely, you'll see all the accounts that we talked about a few minutes ago. That's a total of 6 bank accounts. When $50,000 in cash comes into the income account, it gets immediately distributed. 5% in sales tax, 10% into income tax, 10% into profit, and 10% into owner's pay. Then we take 65% and it goes into the operating expense account. Can you see how this is starting to make sense? Because if you look closely, you'll see that we made 50 grand, but we only have $32,000 available to spend as operating expenses. So if you set up a simple budget like the one that I have laid out here, it will make things really clear. It will tell you the exact maximum amount of money that you can spend on all of these categories, which will help keep your spending in check, which will prevent you from going into credit card debt like me. It will make you feel better, you will sleep better at night, and overall give you the peace of mind knowing that your cash is managed and you don't have to stress about it. I wish I would have learned this sooner. God, the system has just been such a game changer. I'm lucky that I get to share it with you now to hopefully prevent some of the pain that I went through. Before I found Relay, I was managing all of this with an Excel spreadsheet and a credit union that I somehow convinced to let me open up multiple bank accounts without them charging me every month. It took a really long time and it was a total pain in the butt. So before I show you how to set up all these automatic transfer rules, let's talk about today's sponsor, Relay. Relay is a business banking platform that was specifically designed for profit-first users. Now, I've used multiple business bank accounts. I've signed up for the private ones, the big ones, the local credit unions, and I've really done a lot of experimenting with this because I was dead set on finding the right business banking partner to work with. If you can't access your money or spend it when you want and how you want, it can be a real problem, especially if you're working with suppliers or people overseas. You also need to be able to connect your business bank account to platforms like PayPal and Stripe. You need to be able to connect them using Plaid so your business account can talk to all the other software out there. You've got to be able to send checks and wire transfers and ACH. You need a debit card to spend money. And you need a credit card as well, so you have that purchase protection. You're going to need checking accounts and savings accounts, and if you're like me, you'll need the ability to send a check directly from your online bank. All of these things are important when choosing a banking platform, and Relay has all of them. For example, when I called Chase to ask them if they could waive the monthly fees as I opened up 5 additional checking accounts, they literally laughed at me. They wanted nothing to do with me. They didn't care about my small business. They didn't want my business. They wouldn't budge at all. It's honestly kind of embarrassing. They wanted like $15 a month for every account. So in the end, I was going to be paying Chase $100 a month just to have bank accounts open. And that just didn't feel right. Now, I set this up before I found Relay. So I had to go talk to the bank managers and fill out a bunch of applications, get exceptions, get some fees waived. And after months and months of hard work, we eventually got it done. But my local credit union's online banking system is not that good. There's a lot of things I can't do. I can't transfer to external accounts. I can't wire transfer internationally. It's a real pain. And honestly, like the way that I set it up was kind of janky. I didn't have all the bells and whistles that I've actually really come to enjoy. So naturally, when I discovered Relay, I reached out to them. I told them how much I love using their system and their software and how much of a game changer it's been for me, and we partnered up on some content. And the main reason is that I've been genuinely impressed with the quality of their product and the level of service that they provide. They've very quickly become my primary banking platform. Now, hopefully by showing you this process and telling you about my own experiences, it will help you find the right bank to get a handle on your cash flow. Implementing Profit First is 1,000 times harder when you're not using Relay. So if Profit First is something that you're serious about and you want to get this done, please consider using Relay. It won't cost you any money to get set up and open your accounts. There's no hidden fees and none of the icky stuff that you find with the bigger banks. I'll leave an affiliate link in the description below. All you have to do is click on the link, fill out the application, and once you're approved, you will be officially set up with a free business checking account with Relay, the exact same one that I use. Now let's talk about how to set up the automatic transfer rules, because you don't want to have to manage this with a spreadsheet or a piece of paper like I did. Ideally, we set things up to be automatic. Luckily, Relay has an excellent solution for us. Let me walk you through it. This is a Relay dashboard. You'll see that there's a couple different accounts in here: income, profit, taxes, OPEX, and owner's comp. But we're missing one, the sales tax account. So let me show you how to add a bank account using Relay now. You're going to click on Accounts right here, and it will take you to a screen that looks like this. Then you're going to click on Add Account. We're going to nickname this one Sales Tax. Perfect. It's going to be a checking account, not a savings account. And then we're going to scroll down and add all the team members that we need to add. Then you hit Create Account. Great, the account's created. we just opened up another bank account without talking to another person or getting any pushback. Amazing. So what do we do next? We put money in it? No, not right now. What we're going to do is create an auto transfer rule. So let's click on that button. Hey, look at that. Not only do we have maximum balance rules, but we also have the profit first rule. So let's click on it. All right, we're at the profit first rule section. Now, this section covers all of your accounts for profit first. So you don't need to set up individual rules for each account. We're going to do all of that on this screen here. So let's go ahead and do profit first rules and setup. Now, we're going to choose the frequency to be every day. I think that's acceptable. And we want to keep all the money in our income account. And we want to keep at least $500 in there, just in case, you know. I like to leave a little bit extra in the income account. Now, we need to set up the automatic transfer rules. So let's do that now based on the percentages I talked about earlier. The first one is going to be profit. So let's write down 10% and that will transfer directly to profit. The next one, it's going to be 10%, and that's going to be income tax. So let's choose taxes. The next one, 10%, and that's going to go to sales tax specifically, the account we just made. There we go. The next one is owner's comp. So we're going to do 10%, and we're going to go over here to owner's compensation. Oh, we have 40 out of 100% left over. I made a mistake. Sales tax should be 5%. So I'm just going to adjust that now. Perfect. But where's the other account? We need one more. So let's click on the add account button. We're going to type in 65. So the percentages are 100 out of 100. And then we're going to choose the last account, operating expenses. And that's it. That's literally all we have to do. Now, every time money comes into your income account, it will automatically be split up every single day. Pretty cool, right? Let's make it official by clicking on create auto transfer rule in the bottom right. And there we go. The transfers will automatically happen at 1 o'clock in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, and this is what it looks like. Now remember, you can edit or cancel this at any time, so don't feel a ton of pressure. Let's confirm it. We're done. That is literally all it takes to set up the automatic transfer rules. God, I wish I found this sooner. This is so much easier. Now, once you have these automatic transfer rules set up, you're pretty much good to go. Now, your job is to operate your business using only the money from the operating expense account. When you want to pay yourself every month, it comes out of owner's compensation. When you want to transfer profits to yourself every quarter, it comes out of the profit account. When you pay sales tax, it comes out of the sales tax account. And when you pay your income tax, it comes directly out of the income tax account. So let's round this out and talk about how I manage this every month, because I don't log into my bank account every day. In fact, I set things up according to what Mike Michalowicz taught me. I do all of my banking checks and pay everybody on the 10th and the 20th of every single month. If we pay them on the 10th, there's a good chance it will arrive by the 15th, which is when a lot of bills are due. If we pay everybody on the 20th, there's a good chance that all of that money will arrive, whether we're sending checks or not, by the 1st of the month, which is the time that most vendors, contractors, and people require they get paid by. So what does that look like? Let's say it's the 20th of the month and I log into my Relay account. What do I actually do? Well, the first thing that I do is I make sure that all of the money that's been transferred out of the income account is correct. I just glance at it and make sure it feels right. The next thing that I do is I pay all of our bills. I start by paying all of our people. I have a list of contractors and employees that I need to run payroll for and pay every single month. I pay them on the 20th so they get their check by the 1st. So what else happens on Profit First Day? Well, I check the transfers, make sure they're good to go. I pay all of our employees and our contractors, and then I pay all of our credit cards. All the credit cards get paid off using the operating expense account. Now, if it's the end of the quarter and it's time to distribute profits, I will take those profits and I'll transfer them to my S-Corp or directly to my personal bank account. If it's time to pay my taxes, I will pay the taxes with a bank transfer directly from the income tax account. Sometimes I don't even give it to myself and then to the IRS. I'll just pay it directly from the business. That's okay. So what comes after you have all this set up? What do we do next? Well, what we want to do is we want to begin shifting the way that we manage our cash flow into the ideal breakdown. You might find that you can't afford to put 10% into profit and 10% into owner's pay, at least right now. You might be only able to do 1% into profit and 4% into owner's pay. And that's okay, because that's how I started too. But over time, you're going to want to increase the percentages to get closer to the ideal breakdown. And the ideal breakdown is very similar to what I shared in this video. So what does that look like? It means that we will update our auto transfer rule every quarter. So let me show you what I mean by that. Here is our profit first rules and setup. I'm going to click on these three dots and I'm going to edit the auto transfer rule. Let's say that I want to shift profit to 15%. What I'm going to do is every quarter, I'm going to adjust it by 1%. And we're going to take that out of operating expenses. And then I'm going to hit confirm and save it. So what I'm doing is I'm changing each percentage by 1% every quarter. Now you can do it a little bit more frequently if you can stomach it and your business can support it, but at the very least, shift your percentages very slowly over time, and eventually you'll have a business that's operating within its means. Now, when I work with students or clients, I will look at the ideal percentages that they have set up, and I'll help guide them in the implementation of this. Because every business is different. Every business is unique. We're all spending money on different things. Sometimes we just need a second set of eyes. It's not easy. I know it's not. But you can absolutely do this. You combine this video with Relay and the book Profit First, you'll have everything that you need. So as you get closer to your ideal percentages, you'll see money start to build up in your accounts. You'll see money start to stack up in the operating expense account. You'll definitely see money start to build up in the profit and tax account. Our goal is to build up our cash reserves so we don't have to spend every dollar in the accounts every month. We need a safety net. Sometimes we have to buy inventory early. Sometimes we have to test new marketing strategies. Sometimes we don't get paid from the retailers for 120 days, and so we have to float the cost of the inventory itself. It's really important to have some cash reserves built up. So please don't spend every single dollar in your operating expense account unless you absolutely have to. We want to start building that up. That's one of the bigger mistakes that I made, was spending every dollar thinking I had to put every dollar to use. No, it's smart to have money ready to go to deploy because you never know what's going to happen. 2020 versus now, big difference, right? Now you might be wondering, what size business will this system work for? Just about any size. I'm serious. I've done a lot of case studies on this and talked to a lot of different business owners. It can work if you're making less than $10,000 a month. It can work if you're a mid-6-figure business. It can work at 7 figures, even 8, and as high as 9 figures. That's $100 million or more. Anything beyond that, you'll probably have a CFO on staff to manage all of this. So beyond that, I don't think it's as important. But if you're building a business to get to that 7-8 figure range, this is the system we want to use. This is the system that worked for me. Now, if you like this stuff, I have a lot more where this came from. I have an e-commerce community that is specifically centered around content and business operations for people that sell products online, just like us. We'll talk about LLCs and bank accounts. We talk about cash flow and taxes. We'll go into product display pages and how to take photos and how to build a high converting listing. We talk about Amazon and Shopify, and I'll connect you with other people that are doing the exact same thing as you. We also talk about content. I'll teach you how to become your own brand's influencer, how to become a creator, how to make videos, and how to become the person that is capable of marketing your own product online so you don't have to pay expensive marketing agencies, influencers, and creators to make videos for you that don't work. You can do this. You can manage your cash flow. You can set these things up. You can operate your business. You can create the videos, and you can run the Facebook ads. You just need to learn how. And that's what my membership community is all about. We meet once a week to talk through questions and get updates from our members, and we regularly have discussions and put out trainings. The stuff that we talk about inside my community is only going to help you get closer to the version of yourself that you need to become to pull this off. The version of you that is providing for your employees, it's taking care of your family, it's showing up for your kids, and you can approach life and business and family in the moment without all that stress of just not knowing how your money's doing. It's a pretty big stressor. It got me good, but it doesn't anymore. If any of this resonates with you, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check out our community. There's even an opportunity for us to do some one-on-one coaching. Now, if you've made it this far, I'm really proud of you. This is not easy stuff to do. Managing your cash flow and leveling up your financial education is incredibly hard, especially if you've never done it before. If you have any questions or if you need any support, please shoot me a message on Instagram or leave a comment on this video. I read all of them, and I would love to help you out in any way that I can. Otherwise, get the book Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, get set up with a business bank account through Relay, and keep chasing the uncomfortable work, because that's where the growth is. It's never going to be easier than it is right now to implement this system. I'll see you inside the community.